Hey, welcome back to the channel. My name is John. Today is day 8 of my 2-month Fasted-Thenics challenge. Let me start with the numbers. 204.1 pounds on the scale, blood pressure 112/79, blood sugar was 85 milligrams per deciliter, and 5.1 millimoles per liter for ketones. All of that's looking good, so I'll go ahead and start talking about a couple things I wanted to discuss. The first of which is sleep. Couple of weird things about sleep. This week I'm making an adjustment on something. I usually drink a cup of green tea between 6 and 8 in the evenings. It's usually the last thing that I consume. I'm trying to get to that point. But I'm actually going to eliminate the green tea completely. And if I do consume it, it'll be earlier in the day. The other thing is I'm going to try and get my all of the workout sessions done by 8 o'clock, and what that'll do, including the walk, and what that'll do is it'll force me to get the bone broth and the protein shake completed by that time, so that by the time I go to bed between 10 and 11, all the liquid will have been consumed, and I'll have a chance to go to the restroom before I head off to bed. So hopefully that's helped sleep as well. So I was worried with the green tea, the caffeine was like maybe getting me a little bit wired so that I wasn't getting proper sleep. So 2 and 3 nights ago, it took me forever to get to sleep, and then I was waking up quite often and then feeling really groggy in the morning, and it didn't help that I was, continuing with the exercise was making my muscles a little bit sore. So last night I did sleep better. The soreness is starting to fade off. I didn't really feel any soreness, but I did feel drained when I got up. While taking a shower, just washing my hair, my muscles, my upper arms, just started feeling numb and drained. Not that it hurt or that I couldn't lift them, but it just, last summer, when I was fasting last summer, I was working on a few projects around the house, and I'd have to hold a drill up above my head and, put a screw into a stud or something. And normally I can hold my arm up like this for, 5-10 minutes. And do it multiple times throughout a day and not have any kind of, not feel tired. Last summer during the fast, I noticed that it was like 15 seconds, maybe 30 seconds. And I would feel that sensation of, oh my goodness, I got to switch arms or something, or take a break. So it was kind of that sensation. So I'll talk about, that kind of leads me into some of the things that I did during last fast, so I'll talk about that a little bit more. So I felt a little bit drained today. I felt drained a few days ago in the morning, and the day before that in the evening after a walk. So some of this, I'm not a robot. I'm not able to do this in like lab conditions where I am, I'm trying to keep the quantity of exercise the same. I'm trying to, 4 workout sessions, the same number of reps for each body weight exercise. I'm doing the same amount of miles as I walk on the treadmill at the same pace every day. I'm going to try and keep all of that consistent, but my day fluctuates. So timing between those and additional walking that I might do, even just going out to get groceries or something, you're going to have a little fluctuation there. So you have to kind of speculate as to the reasons for things and try to pay attention and keep some notes. But I suspect that the body is trying to level out on blood sugar production. So if you're not consuming any carbs or sugar, then your body has a way of producing that. And an example of that would be the guy overseas quite a long time ago that did, he went over an entire year without food. He was medically supervised. I think he was taking he was just consuming water and electrolyte supplements, or it wasn't food. It wasn't anything really, and he went that long, and so I've seen the graph of his glucose and his ketone production a few times in a couple of videos, and I'll have to go find that and show it to you. But basically, what you notice is his blood glucose. It basically drops down to a certain level, and it kind of levels off, and it maintains there through the duration. And you ask yourself, well, why would that be? You can kind of understand the ketones going from basically 0 and just skyrocketing up to 7 or 8, and your body's taking stored fuel in the form of fat and converting it into ketones that are usable as energy. But the blood sugar kind of, the first time I saw that, I was really intrigued by that. But basically the body is able to produce enough blood sugar to keep that at a level pace, or not a level pace, but at a level where you're not going to fall out, or I guess the best way to say it is you need a certain amount in order to function. So as I am going through this fast, there have been a couple of days where I probably have my blood sugars dropped a little lower, and my body's getting used to having to produce that on a regular basis. So I remember last year when I did a fast of 2 months that I didn't really feel much of a fluctuation after the first couple of weeks. It just kind of maintained, and I felt fairly normal throughout that. Now, obviously, if I was doing anything strenuous or that took a lot of energy, I found myself having to take a lot more breaks. So it wasn't that I couldn't do something. I couldn't do it as well as I was doing before, but as long as I would kind of, like interval training, jog a mile, walk a mile, jog a mile, walk a mile, then I could get through a pretty decent distance. So I'll go through and I'll tell you a little bit about some of the activities that I did last summer during the fast. It wasn't really an intention like this time. I'm doing body weight exercises, a group of those, same number of reps, 4 times a day. I'm also doing a 2-mile walk at a set pace, and I'm going to do that through the end of the 2 months. And last summer, I didn't start off thinking that way. I just wanted a challenge. I wanted to avoid medications to fix my blood pressure and my blood sugar. So I used fasting as a way to see if I could fix those things and not have to take those medications, and continue on my path to get healthier. So last summer, I did lab work before I started the fast. I scheduled lab work on day 25, and then an annual physical on day 49. I intended to go 50 days, and on the day 50, I scheduled a 5K run. So I did those things. After I got the midway lab work, electrolytes dropped significantly, and they affected my HSCRP number in a very negative way. So I decided to start consuming a bone broth and an electrolyte supplement to get those back up, and not be risking my health any further. The cool thing was, on day 50, I actually ran a 5K, and I'd say ran with a lot of leeway, because it wasn't really a run. I would call it an interval jog. I did the 3.1 miles. I finished the 5K run in 39 minutes, 27 seconds. So definitely under 40 minutes. That's an average pace of 12:37. It's not it's not an outstanding achievement. There are plenty of guys my age. I'm 49, getting ready to turn 50, and there's a lot of people out there that can whip that time. And now I forget. I probably have it here. Hold on a second. I did a 5K on May 25th last year, and I ran about 31 minutes. So that was about a 10-minute mile pace, and I had only jogged for maybe a month and a half prior to that. So went from completely out of shape, a sedentary job, not doing a lot of running at all, not a lot of cardio at least, and I got to where I could, jog a 10-minute mile pace, and it was a little hilly, but not that bad. And then the 5K in July, on July 20th, I was able to do 39 and a half minutes, and that was obviously, I hadn't run from May 20th, I believe I said, all the way to July 20th. So that's a couple of months of no running at all. And I was also fasting, and I was still able to complete that in 39 and a half minutes. So you got to be asking yourself, well, how does somebody do that? Because I didn't know if I would be able to finish it or not. I wasn't going to push so hard and kind of Goggins through it and risk serious implications on my health or life. But what I ended up doing was I jogged at a decent pace, probably a 8 or 9 minute mile pace. I did that for probably a half mile to start, and then I would walk for a quarter mile. And then it got to where I was just basically jogging a quarter, walking a quarter, back and forth until I finished. Now, normally when I'm on the treadmill here and I'm doing a brisk walk, I could probably walk a little bit faster, but it would get my heart rate up even more. But what I normally do is about a 15-minute per mile pace for my daily walk, and that's for 2 miles. That's 30 minutes exactly. This particular 5K that I'm talking about was after not eating for 50 days, and I was able to average about 12:37 per mile. So it's definitely jogging. It's definitely, you might say, well, like, yeah, you could jog a little bit, but then you'd have to walk a bunch. Then, you might as well just walk the whole thing. No, I don't think I could walk at a 12:37 pace. Maybe it's possible, but I don't think, I don't think so. So anyway, so I guess what I'm getting at is the body has a way of using fat for fuel, and obviously I had fat on me during this, and that's what I'm using even now to sustain myself. I've got stored fuel just like a bear in hibernation, and my body is using that. Now, the one thing that your body needs on top of that is the electrolytes. So anyone considering doing anything close to this should consider your electrolyte intake, your sodium, potassium, magnesium. For my fast right now, I'll talk about that just for a second. I'm going 2 months with no food. I'm doing the body weight exercises as I described earlier, and in order to be able to maintain my muscle mass and provide myself with the electrolytes needed to maintain health, I am consuming bone broth and a protein shake. The protein shake is 0 carb. I am mixing that into an almond coconut milk, and I am putting in that a couple of raw eggs and a little bit of water on top of that. I'm blending it. That gives me 4 cups. Bone broth, I am taking an organic beef and an organic chicken. I'm mixing those two at a 50-50 ratio, and I'm consuming 4 cups of that every day. So basically the way it works is after each workout session, I drink 1 cup of the bone broth and 1 cup of the protein shake. and I do that 4 times a day. That's basically all the calories that I'm consuming. I am taking supplements, fish oil, vitamin D, and a multivitamin, and that brings me up to about 500 calories in a day. And I went over those numbers in an earlier video. So basically, that's what I'm doing this time. So I am doing a regular physical activity throughout this. And the only question that I had, because I knew that I could do it, having done some of the things that I did last summer, I knew that I could do these kind of much tamer exercise workouts and the walk and do that for an extended period of time. I knew I could do something. So I had to figure out exactly how many of those reps I could do of each exercise, and what I wanted to keep it minimal, but I wanted to keep my muscle mass on, if not maybe increase it a little bit. And the purpose of the eggs is the cholesterol mainly, and that is so that my body can maintain testosterone levels, because that dropped quite a bit throughout the last fast over last summer. So I suspect that all of this is going to go mostly as planned. We'll have to see, obviously. Otherwise, there'd be no point in doing these kind of challenges or experiments. So I'll talk a little bit more now about some of the other things that I did as little physical activities that I did to kind of see what I could or couldn't do. So besides the 5K on day 50, we ended up taking a vacation towards the end of the fast. So I went 61 and a half days. On July 31st, so that would be 61 days. Is that right? Let me think about that. Yeah. So on the 61st day, I ended up doing a 22-mile bike ride. So I think some of my in-laws up there wanted to really test and see what this guy was going to be able to do or not. So we all got on bikes. Unfortunately, I got one of the worst bikes there in terms of resistance to the actual machine of it. And they all were talking about it, but I'm not complaining it by no means, but the way out was really difficult. It was very difficult. If I had had the bike I had on the way back, I bet I would have been able to go much faster. So anyway, let me just give you the numbers. I'm not much of a cyclist, so I don't do this on a regular basis. This was just a thing. I have a Garmin for keeping track of running workouts mostly, but there's a cycle setting on it. So I clicked started an exercise, and we went on this bike ride, rough bike, 11 miles to get to a nearby town. And I did that in 1 hour, 21 minutes, 33 seconds, 8.1 miles per hour on average. That was a challenge. I started off by trying to take some video, and at one point I had to actually stop and rearrange camera and that kind of thing. But it just for a short amount of time, and then I got back on it. I wasn't able to maintain a set speed, much like these guys that do push-up or pull-up contests where they're trying to see how many of those that they can do within a set amount of time. Many times you'll see them do a short amount of reps as a group, take a break, and then get back on it and do it again, because you deplete your muscles of the sugar or glycogen that you need in order to use that muscle. So that's what I was finding on this. Now, normally, if I was eating a standard American diet, I could just ride that bike the whole time, and maybe I have to coast a little bit, but I wouldn't be standing on the pedals in this situation. It wasn't really hilly or anything like that. There were some hills, but nothing nothing crazy. So it wasn't like we were, in the mountains and it was steep elevations. So very, very early on, I found that I would have to stand on the pedals, get it going to a set amount of speed, and try to keep that up for amount of time. Push myself a little bit, and then sit down, coast, and give my body a chance to get back and replenish some of that glycogen, and then rinse and repeat pretty much to the end of it. And by the time we got there, we went to another relative's house over there. I was able to set the bike down and just lay down and just relax and let my body recuperate. I did much better on the way back. I got to use a different bike, and on the way back, the distance was 11.28 miles, 1 hour, 7 minutes, 21 seconds. So a little bit faster, 10.1 mile per hour on average. So that was a challenge that we did on day 61. There was a couple of other things that I definitely would consider as challenges. One, and I'm not remembering, I'm looking at my Garmin activities list, and I should have clicked should have clicked, I don't know, biking or jogging or something, so it would have kept like GPS location of where we were. So what we did was we put canoes and kayaks into a river, and we canoed downriver to another spot and put those in a truck and went back. So I can't remember the exact distance, but it took us about an hour and a half to paddle. So it's all upper body. You're rowing, and coasting. And again, same thing. I couldn't keep up a constant pace for the entire time, or even close to that. It was dig, not 100%, but probably like 90% of what I could give, and then relax, let my muscles recuperate. And it blew me away that I was able to do these things under the caloric restriction that I was experiencing back then, because last summer I didn't consume the protein shake or the egg or any of that. It was just bone broth towards the end, and I was consuming probably 4 cups of bone broth in a day. So you're talking about, goodness, less than 200 calories in a day, and I'm like biking for 22 miles. I'm canoeing down a river for an hour and a half. There was another bike ride that we took that was much shorter. It's amazing what our bodies can do. Now, I am not recommending anyone that if your health is in a horrible situation that you start off trying to do some stuff like this. This has been kind of a 10-year, maybe even longer journey for me. I was always a healthy, kind of athletic person. My body was such that I could eat junk, and a lot of it, because I just used a lot of energy throughout the day, and I had a very energetic kind of active job. I went to a much less active job, sitting at a desk for a lot of time, sitting in a car for a lot of time, working lots of hours, and eating poorly, continued that habit, and all of a sudden I ballooned up to almost 300 pounds. So I've been whittling away at it, and there's lots of conversations to be had about this, but now I'm going on 50. I'll turn 50 later on this month, and I feel healthier than I have in over a decade. I really do, and I feel healthy enough where I can try some of these kind of extreme challenges. I'm starting with some of this stuff. I'd like to, put a cap on me fixing my blood pressure completely and my blood sugar completely, but I don't think that ever happens unless you completely eliminate. Well, in the case of blood sugar, you know, I don't know what damage that I've done to my body over the years, but if I eat a standard American diet and eat sadly for an extended period of time, my blood sugar just creeps up into high ranges where I am pretty much a diabetic, and I should be taking medication for that. When I eat intermittent fasting, if I time restrict, if I do like the time restrict, I usually shoot for. I use the Zero app, and I'll put in there 16/8. So I'll not eat for 16 hours, and then I eat my meal within that 8 hours, and sometimes it's less than that. Sometimes it ends up being 18/6, or even 24. And what I mean, 18 hours of fasting, 6 hours for a feeding window, or 20 hours fasting and 4-hour feeding window. I've toyed around with a lot of this, and when I do those things, my blood sugar drops back down, at least in the 100, 110 range. When I fast, when I play around and I do 5 or 7 day fasts, towards the end of those, it's in the normal range, and I feel good. That's the incredible thing. So I miss donuts and cakes and desserts and goodness, potatoes and pasta and all those things that we love to eat nowadays. I love all of it, but I know now I've got to somehow control that in a way that is healthy for me. And I don't know what the perfect way of approaching nutrition is, but I know that I need to figure something out. So I think the plan after this fast is going to be to do a medium-sized fast at least once a month. And what I mean by that is probably a 5 or a 7 day fast, probably a 7 day fast once a month. So that's like eating 3 weeks and fasting 1 week. I think I can maintain that. It's difficult to switch that momentum, especially, you'll notice, well, what I experience after I do a fast, I had many times just wanted to go and gorge myself on all the high carb stuff that I had to deprive myself of. And that kind of defeats the purpose. It seems ignorant, but it is what you feel, or what I felt like doing, and I would do. Now, I didn't do that on purpose before this fast. Obviously, I fasted last summer, and I dropped down to under 170 pounds. And slowly over time, I maintained to about 185 pounds for a couple of months after that. And then after that, I just ate standard American diet. Pretty much ate whatever the family was eating, and did not try and minimize that in any way. So I wasn't gorging, but I was eating whatever, and I did no physical activity at all up until about a month and a half ago. A month and a half ago, I started doing the body weight exercises, just one session per day, and I was toying around with the number of reps. I wanted to kind of get my joints and my muscles a little bit into shape so that I wouldn't jeopardize getting hurt as I did this challenge. And I wanted to know, how many reps. So I did a little bit of exercising, but that started probably around Thanksgiving time. So it was very easy for my body to just slowly creep up until I was back up to 215 pounds. And like I said, I wasn't trying to put on the weight. I just wasn't doing anything to prevent it. And so here we are again. It gives me the opportunity to do this fast again. I thought I probably was going to, gain back up to about 200, 205, which if you look at my weight graph over the past 10 years, that is at the lower range of my weight. There have only been a handful of days besides last year's fast where I was below 205. Outside of that, I probably have spent maybe half of those days averaging somewhere around 220, and the other half maybe a little lower, around 215 or 212. So like I have been making a steady progression towards less weight and more physical activity, but I decided this time around to not do the exercises leading up to when I was going to start this, and I was going to eat a standard American diet up to this. And what ended up happening is, despite the work that I did last summer, I ended up putting much of the weight back on. So after this fast, I'm going to pick another challenge. I think the next challenge is going to be more exercise related. I think it's going to have to do with running and training. I'd like to get to a decent 5K time, and at that point I might consider doing some longer runs. I would love to be able to do a marathon here in the next couple of years, so that'll be in the horizon. But for now, I'm going to do this Fasted-Thenics challenge for 2 months, and I have no doubt that I'll be able to complete this. I hope that I don't have to adjust the reps at all. I'm going to do my best not to have to do that, but it's going well so far. I'd like to talk about last summer's fast even more. I know I'm kind of rambling. I'm not doing this scripted at all, and it is very interesting to me, and I hope that the information that I'm learning myself from doing these kinds of experiments on myself, and the challenges that I put in front challenges that I'm giving myself, that some of this will be interesting to some of you, and for those that are trying to do things similar to this, that you might be able to learn a little bit from not just what I'm saying, but some of the numbers that I can give out. But I think to kind of wrap this up, I'm actually on the treadmill. I am reading an Audible book by David Goggins. And there's a lot to be learned from what he talks about. I think the biggest thing is that in life we tend to put we learn from our environment and those around us, and we from that many times we end up putting these barriers or boundaries in front of us. Not that we do it on purpose, it's just kind of the way our minds work or something. So just the idea of going without food for 2 days freaks many people out. Obviously, if you're below 15% body fat, if you're really healthy, and you're used to eating a standard American diet, and then all of a sudden you flip the switch and you're just eating keto, you're going to feel different. You're probably not going to feel good after you've done it a few times and you've gotten used to that. But the very first time is probably the first time your body will have gone without sugar intake ever. I think it's pretty much common knowledge at this point that our bodies are designed to be able to withstand times of feast and times of famine, being able to go without food for an extended period of time, and possibly, in some hunter-gatherer situations, not having access to produce for many months, and only consuming protein or fat, you're going to be in that state of just burning ketones. Most of us nowadays never have to experience that. So yes, it's definitely a transition. It's definitely difficult, but it's one of those kind of preconceived notions. And I'll go back to that kind of story that I told a few days ago. A kid falls down, skins their knee for the first time. They're going to freak out. They don't know what's going on. They don't know how long the pain's going to last. They don't know what to expect because they've never done it before. And there's a tremendous amount of fear that goes along with that. But a lot of it has to do with preconceived notions of, in the case of fasting, a lot of it has to do with preconceived notions of I might pass out. I can't do this. There's something wrong. But if you have a tough mindset and you just stick to it, there are some benefits to this. And I think there are plenty of experts out there that all of us can learn from in that regard. And many of them are, in one form or another, talking about caloric restriction. If you start at the I don't know, if you were making a list of the things that you needed to do without in order to be more healthy, as far as not consuming, so that would be just like you don't want to consume those things anymore. The first one would be don't drink your calories, don't drink soda. Start minimizing your processed foods. Don't eat high fructose corn syrup. Eliminate as many sugars and carbs as you can from your diet. And if you do eat them, minimize the amounts that you eat. You don't want to overconsume protein. You want to figure out, for your activity level and your body, it should be, 50 to 80, maybe 90 grams of protein in a day. You don't want to overconsume protein at all. You basically maintain that number at a set, whatever your target is, and you either eat more carbs or more fat. So if you're giving up all the carbs, or as many as you can, and you're keeping carbs under 30 or 40 grams, then you've got to eat a lot of fat. So do without as many of the carbs as you can. And then when you start talking about the things you do want to eat, you want to eat healthy fats. You want to eat avocados and eggs and butter, and you can find the information out there. Then on the frontier of exercise, it is obviously healthier to exercise. So what does that mean? Like, does it mean we should all run 100-mile ultra marathons and push ourselves in that way, or do you want to go do HIIT workouts or go join a gym and do CrossFit? There's all kinds of ways to approach that. I'm not, and I enjoy jogging to some extent. I am not one that has ever been able to keep it consistent since I was young. I use the excuse of life and work and all of that. I'm trying to focus more on making exercise and nutrition a priority in my life, and I am reaping the benefits of that. But if you listen to some of the experts, it's not all about aerobic exercise. It's not all about lifting weights. So you've got to work on what is going to get you the benefit that you need, and the least amount of time, and the least amount of chance for injury or getting hurt. So what I'm doing in this particular fast is I'm going to do some simple body weight exercises. The main goal is the fast, 2 months, no food. I am adding the bone broth mainly to supplement the electrolytes that I'm doing without. The protein shake, I am consuming that mainly so that I'm able to do these body weight exercises. It's giving me mainly the protein to keep my muscle mass up during it because I don't want to drop that. I'm adding the 2 raw eggs to that so that hopefully I am not dropping in the I'm not dropping testosterone at all. So all of these have a reason. I'm gonna do this challenge and see what I can learn from this, and after that, I intend to lean more towards a ketogenic diet. Probably 80% of my year, I am going to give myself 2 periods of basically feasting on a standard American diet. One's going to be around the holidays. I just find, and that's a whole nother video in and of itself, but just trying to do this with other people in your life is a big challenge. If you've got kids, they're looking at you, and how you approach food may affect their view of themselves or their view of food. So you got to take that into consideration a little bit. And my spouse, not going out to eat for an extended period of time. It is not a comfortable situation to go out to eat with someone and they're the only one eating. It's really unusual. And it's almost in the direction of punishing that person. So it's also very similar when you're at home. They're able to eat, you're not going to eat. As far as keto, at least you can eat something, and hopefully some of this rubs off on my family members as well. I try out all kinds of recipes and whatnot, but it's fasting though. It's a completely other thing. So I don't intend to do a long-term fast like this ever again. At most, it'll be 30 days, but I suspect that I'm going to keep it to 7 days tops. I'd have to have a really good reason for doing the 30-day. Like, I'd want to know something. I want to do this and then change to this. I don't know. But as far as normalcy, as far as being able to maintain this indefinitely, what I'd like to do is eat a ketogenic diet primarily, fast once a month, hopefully for 7 days, at least 5 days. I don't think 3 days is enough. I'm just guessing, but I just don't think so. I think it takes a good 3 days just to transition, and if autophagy is as powerful as I suspect that it is from what I've read and heard, that you want to be in that state for a few days to get more of the benefits of that. I've also heard doctors talk about not wanting to do that indefinitely. Like you don't want to do just that. You want to kind of cycle in between periods of caloric restriction and periods of refeeding. So that's why I want to leave the holidays as kind of traditional, and maybe that might not be the wrong way of looking at it, but there's something about the tradition of Thanksgiving and Christmas and those meals that we eat and we feast on, the traditional foods that many of us in this country consume. And it's kind of a bonding thing, and we all join in, we all contribute, and we all eat these things and enjoy time with each other, the desserts and all of that. So, what I'm trying to just design kind of a plan using what I know, and obviously modifying it over time until I get it right. But this this past holiday season will be the last time I just eat standard American diet for like over 2 months straight. I'm never going to do that again. I am going to have to figure out exactly what that's going to look like, but it's not healthy. It's not smart to know that it's not healthy and to continue doing it. So I don't intend to do it ever again. I kind of did it so that this video would be possible in a way. So basically, I have been rambling on way long enough, and I just kind of wanted to I had a little extra time today, and I wanted to kind of just like let myself have this rambling conversation to kind of let you know more about where my head is and what the intent of this challenge is, and hopefully you might appreciate. And if you're not into it, I'm sure you've already shut off the video, but if you know somebody that is into nutrition or into fasting or keto, they're most likely going to find some of this information interesting. Maybe they don't watch every single video all the way through, but please share it with them. If you are considering doing anything like this, please consult your doctor. I am not, by no means am I encouraging anyone to try anything like this. I am doing this. I'm going to do this regardless of if I share it in video form. I'm using the videos to kind of document my progress over time. I'm sure many of you realize that 10 years ago, what you were thinking when you were doing this particular thing, and over a period of time, if you don't keep a record of it, you're not gonna be able to look back on it as clearly as you can if there's some form of documentation. So the videos are a form of documenting, and yes, I can take notes, and I am, but the videos also show the way I look. And another form of that I'm also doing is I'm taking a daily picture first thing in the morning. I'm basically, from the start, I'm flexing as I stand, and I take a full shot, straight on, at an angle, and at the side, like a profile picture, so that I can hopefully figure out how to kind of stitch those together into kind of a time lapse, so that you can see, how my body's changing. I think it'll be interesting. The other thing that I plan on doing is I want to compare the data from this fast, where I'm exercising, and I'm keeping it consistent from the beginning all the way to the end, versus last fast, where I didn't do exercising consistently. I fasted with just water for the first 4 weeks, and then I consumed bone broth after that, but it wasn't a consistent amount because I was playing around with it to figure out what I needed to consume. I didn't know. And then I was toying around, especially towards the end. I did the 5K on day 50. I did a long canoe trek down the river, and I did a 22-mile bike ride, another like 5 or 6 mile bike ride. I did these kind of physical challenges to see what I could do and what I was able to do. So what I learned from there, I kind of designed this current challenge, and I want to be able to compare the two. And I'm thinking, I haven't decided yet, but I'm thinking of tweaking. I'm not sure exactly what I'll do, but I'd like to keep it consistent at least for the first month, and then maybe modify at that point, and then pick another thing that I can be consistent at through the end. And I would love some feedback. If anybody can think of some things that I could try, and I thought, well, why limit it to just one transition? Why not maybe split it into 3? So I don't know. I'm toying around with these ideas, trying to figure out exactly what I could do, what would be revealing, what would be interesting. So that would be great if you could help me out with that. So I appreciate you watching. It's been a long, rambly video, but I really do appreciate it. If you've listened this long, please give me a thumbs up. Please leave me some comments. It'd be great if you could chime in and let me know what you think might be an interesting transition for me to make during this fast. I'm definitely going to go with food through to the end. I could adjust what I'm consuming, the exercise regimen. I could change the walk. I don't know what else there would be that I could transition from, but anyway, leave those comments below. If you've got any questions, I'll do my best at answering those right off. This is a new challenge, so I'm not getting a huge influx of comments and questions at this point. But if, like I said, if you know someone that's interested in this kind of stuff, I'm no expert, but I am a guy that's eagerly consuming lots of information in these directions, and I'm trying to implement some of these things. I'm trying to implement many of these things. I've started meditating. I call it stretchitating. I do my morning stretch, and I have a gong. I use the same company, Kevin Rose's app company that makes Zero, which I use to kind of track my fasting. Not long-term fast, it's not really useful for that, but intermittent fasting or time-restricted fasting is kind of cool for that. But he also has an app called Oak, which I use to meditate in the morning, and right now I'm only doing 10 minutes. I do it before I take my blood pressure, which it's been really helpful to get my mind on just clearing my thoughts and relaxing and focusing. And while I do that, I meditate. And the app is really cool. You can set it so that it gongs every certain amount of time. So you're listening to some kind of white noise. You can choose among those, and then I should review the app. And I basically do different stretches every 2 minutes, and my 10 minutes is up. I take my blood pressure. I use my precision extra meter, and I take my blood glucose and blood ketones, and my morning routine's pretty much done. So anyway, leave me your comments below. If you've got any questions, I'll do my best to get back to you on that. Give me a like. It'd be great if you'd subscribe if you're really interested, and share it with people that might be interested in this kind of thing. So who knows? They might be able to learn something from me. And in the future, between the challenges, I intend to kind of use the information that I'm consuming, aggregate that a little bit, and kind of share that information, what I'm learning, and try to dial it down to one implementable adjustment for your health and the betterment of your health and your lifespan, and be able to know why that particular thing is going to benefit you. So I appreciate you watching. Thanks again, and we'll see you in tomorrow's video. Bye.